So I started thinking I was going to black out. I actually thought I was going to die. I wanted to run away, I wanted to curl up in a ball, I wanted to cry. I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm George David Hodgson. I'm here with It's Gone Viral to talk about my mental health story, how I got here and what I do now.
Tell us about your mental health journey. How did that manifest itself for you?
So I'd always had, I believe, mental health problems when I was younger. At primary school, I had extra support at home, counting to 10, breathing exercises. I didn't really realise what it was until much later in my life. It was at the end of school when things started shaking up a little bit. My friends and I decided to celebrate, finishing school. We go to a festival, and we went to a festival. We were 16 at the time, and we thought, oh, we'll get some drugs, and we'll experiment with some drugs. The drug in question was MDMA, and I took it through my nose. Didn't think much of it, didn't really enjoy the experience, felt a bit bizarre, so I thought, I'm not going to do that again, Anyway, ignorant youth, I tried it again about 2 weeks later at a party, still didn't really agree with it, hated it, and thought, no, they're not for me, especially with my personality. I'm very hyperactive. So I kind of forgot about it, and then 3 weeks later I was in the horse's field doing the dung, picking up the poo, and I started to feel very hot, tunnel vision, sweating, heart racing, and I didn't know what was going on, and it felt very much like I was back on the drugs, the MDMA, and I thought it was in my system. I was convinced it was in my system. So I started really getting confused, sort of pacing up and down the field, thinking, what can I do? What can I do? I need to tell my parents. I need to, I'm on this drug in my parents' field. I decided to run inside and tell my parents everything. And this was really intense, intensified over a very short amount of time. So I started thinking I was going to black out. I actually thought I was going to die. I wanted to run away, I wanted to curl up in a ball, I wanted to cry. I didn't know what to do with myself. I remember it vividly. I was in the kitchen, my parents were sat down. We had to call Handstock, which is my county's out of hours service, and they said, it sounds like you're having a panic attack. So I was breathing into this paper bag to kind of calm myself down, regulate my breathing, and eventually calm down from the panic attack. It lasted about 45 minutes. And the next day I was just lying in bed playing PlayStation or watching TV or watching a film, and I started to feel the same thing. Heart racing, tunnel vision, sweating, and I thought, it's back in my system again. I'm on the drugs again. I realised it was another panic attack, and I had a panic attack every day for about 2 weeks. That's when I recognised something was very wrong with me. We went down to the doctor, the GP, and he said, it sounds like you've got anxiety, panic attacks, and you're starting to experience OCD. I'm going to refer you to CALMzone. And the appointment was 2 weeks from when we went to the GP. And in those 2 weeks, my mental health severely deteriorated very rapidly. And because of this, I started washing my hands 50 to 100 times a day because I believed anything I touched had drug trace on it. Sugar, cake, crumbs, it could be anything on any surface, dust. In fact, I believed that everything was contaminated with drugs. So I had to wash my hands every time. It was exhausting, it was wearing, I was having a panic attack, the anxiety worsened. I sort of cut off my friends, and my world really started to shrink. And I was starting to experience intrusive thoughts, which was scary. So the CALMzone appointment came along, and they said, we can help you, it's fine, we'll get you through it, we'll give you this is what it's going to look like, this is the structure, this is the help we'll give you. At the end of the session, I think, when they said, we've got to tell you, there's about a 40-week waiting list for this support, the room fell silent. I mean, I fell silent and sort of broke into tears more than I already was. My parents were gobsmacked. They didn't know what to do. So we went straight back to the GP. The GP said, one thing, can you afford to go privately? And that's where my road to recovery started. So I had a psychiatrist for the first year and a half. He put me on medication and was doing hypnotherapy with me to recognise the sensations of a panic attack and understanding what they are. So when I started to experience one, I thought, this is just a panic attack, this isn't the drugs in my system. Recognising that is an important step for the recovery, thinking, I know how to look after myself and my mental health, I know how to manage my thoughts, and that's okay. So you kind of recognise when you're feeling a little bit lower or a little bit better, and you can kind of work on that. It was during that time, and my way of expressing myself was creative, very creative, and I used to write down and draw my thoughts and feelings in notebooks. I had loads of notebooks. They were just almost scribbles, massive scribbles saying anxiety, because that's what it felt like in my head, and my creative outlet turned into kind of transferring these designs to something. I didn't know what they were at the time, but it became a t-shirt. And I thought maybe I could put what I'm going through on a t-shirt, so when I meet other people in the future and they say, what does that t-shirt mean? I can tell them about my story. And it starts that conversation without me having to openly say, oh, I've been through X.
What do you think you would say to any preteen teen that's in that kind of thought process of experimenting with drugs?
I'd say be safe. If you're going to do it, be around friends that you feel comfortable with. You know, be in a safe environment that nothing can happen if it does go wrong. And make sure you've got someone there who can help you.
How do you maintain your mental health in a positive way?
So I check in with myself a lot, always checking in with myself.
And what do you do when you check in with yourself?
Monitor how I feel, look ahead. I think I'm going to do this. Are there going to be any potential triggers? How am I going to deal with them? And then kind of working through and processing things, thinking, because of course that worst case scenario always comes to mind, thinking, what's the reality of that happening? And then kind of going with it. You know, believing in yourself is important. And if I do have a bad day, if I am just having one of those bad days, I never try and push on through. The more you push through, the harder it gets. The more tired you get, and you start breaking yourself down and being more vulnerable and susceptible to poor mental health. So if you're having one of those days, step back and say, this is a bad day. I'm just going to do what I need to do to look after myself, and that could be whatever works for you. Go for a bike ride, watch Netflix, and then monitor yourself the next day. And if you think that's helped, you know, you've recharged yourself a little bit. If it takes a week, fine. If it starts taking more than a week or 2 weeks, you need to start checking with yourself more and saying there's something worse going on here. Taking each step and each day and just checking in and saying, how do I feel today? If you go to the gym and you're exhausted or go for a long bike ride, you know, you have a bit of a break. Whereas our brains, we kind of forget about. We think, oh, I'm just having a bad day, you know, it'll get better. They need looking after as well.
If a parent was listening to this, would there be, and they perhaps don't have that open line of communication that maybe you've had, or perhaps their child doesn't necessarily feel comfortable, what would be the signs that someone could look for?
It'd probably be isolation and recognising and just kind of encouraging them that you're always there if you need them to talk to you. What I find important and sometimes advise is that it might not be you that they speak to. I hope that doesn't come across as hurtful, but they might have a friend or someone that they're speaking to at the time. And you've got to kind of recognise that and say, you know, whatever you're going through, all I hope is you've got someone to speak to. If you need someone else, I'm always here. Giving them that open door to say, actually, I'm ready to talk now. Not forcing them into it, not suffocating them and saying, talk to me, what's going on, because it almost will push them away further, especially when you're suffering from mental health, poor mental health. It just feels everything's so frustrating, especially with anxiety or depression. I was fortunate not to have depression, but with anxiety, you get very agitated. I was very agitated very easily, and, you know, I'll stop doing this or do that, and, you know, it was, you know, if you need to talk, we're here. It was that kind of calming atmosphere. So recognising that if they are quiet, just encouraging them that if they need to speak, you are there, but they might be speaking to a friend or a loved one or someone else that they trust at that time. And, you know, if they feel ready, they'll speak to you. But also just, you know, as I said, try not to tread on eggshells and treat them any differently, because they're still a human being.
And I think that's a really good point, actually, around what you said around feeling like there's something wrong with you if you're treated like there's something wrong with you. OCD, I think, is one of those conditions that is often misunderstood. What would you say to someone who might be experiencing some of the things that you experienced, and how they could potentially get some help?
So OCD is certainly misunderstood. It's a lot more debilitating than I'm a bit OCD about that. You know, when someone's TV controller's not straight on the bedside table, it's far, far worse than that. It's intrusive thoughts with rituals, with compulsions. So if someone is experiencing it, the first thing to do is probably to seek help, actually. If it's very severe, like in my case which was if you don't wash your hands, the drugs might get in your system and go through your skin. You need to wash your hands and this will happen. It's a very complex problem to have, and it needs sort of professional help. So if you've recognised it in yourself, find someone you can speak to, who you trust, to talk about it and say, I think I'm experiencing OCD. It might be worth speaking to someone and taking it from there, because for me, it wasn't just about the hand washing. The thoughts inside are very scary, and they feel very real to someone suffering from OCD. If you are experiencing it, I'd suggest finding someone you trust and seeking help.
If you've been affected by anything that you've heard in this series, there are people that you can talk to. See the top comment for the relevant organisations that you can reach out to.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Kevin Hart.
Hi, my name's Eric Snowstreet.
Hi, I'm Margot. I'm Journey.
I'm James McAvoy.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm Rebel Wilson.
I'm Jeremy Clarkson.
I'm going to be translating some Scottish tweets for It's Gone Viral.
On It's Gone Viral.
Ooh, on It's Gone Viral.